Welcome to another episode of Pilots Say What, where we hear what pilots have to say. Today, we are talking to Noah, and I'm excited to talk to you because although you are a CFI here at Thrust Flight, you went somewhere else for your flight training. You're from another state, so I think that opens up some good conversation for us. So if you guys want to hear some perspective that isn't from a Thrust Flight student, I think you should stick around. We'll talk a little bit about how you got into aviation, of course, but I also want to talk a little bit about your experiences that led you here, and we'll get into some of those unique perspectives. But I'll let you introduce yourself if you don't mind.
Sure. I'm Noah Jackson. I'm one of the CFIs here at Thrust. Came here from Charlotte and started here about 8 months ago, around August.
Okay, gotcha. I didn't realize it was 8 months ago. I
Yeah.
think I thought I had saw you, but when the other day when we talked, you said you were like you're a little bit newer here. I asked if you were like newer here as a CFI. I didn't realize it was 8 months.
In like the grand scales things, there's some very veteran instructors. 8 months isn't too long
No,
instructing, so I mean,
you're right. You're right. You're
yeah.
still consider you can be considered new at that point. But that being said, I think I already asked you before, but how'd you find out about Thrust?
So, like I was telling you, you have a great media team, and I was just in Charlotte. I just finished flight school,
Yeah.
and I was looking for jobs. CFI jobs are hard to come by right now, and
Mhm.
I just saw you on an ad on Instagram, and
Yeah.
I was just y'all were advertising the AC and brand new planes, and y'all are hiring. So I just put my resume out there, and y'all the first one to reach out and first thing to accept me. So I came and did it.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah,
You moved from Charlotte, North Carolina to Texas to be a CFI at Thrust. That's
I
awesome.
did. Yeah.
Did you well you kind of took the offer that was there, right?
Yeah.
Uh was there anything that you were kind of looking forward to? What'd you do after you saw the ad? Did you look into us or anything like that?
Oh, cool. Yeah. I looked in. I saw that y'all flew the exact same planes, a little nicer, a little newer. So that was another thing that was attractive to me for a job.
Mm,
I kind of wanted to get out of the state. I'm from Columbia, South Carolina, so Charlotte's only an hour and a half away. I was
okay.
close to home. Kind of wanted to sprout my wings a little bit,
Yeah.
kind of see somewhere else that's a little far from home,
Yeah.
and I loved it so far.
Yeah, you found a reason to kind of like, well, this is a good opportunity to leave home,
Yeah,
or leave
exactly.
the home state anyways. Do you think you'll go back?
I mean, Charlotte was really cool. I mean, it's a lot like Dallas,
Yeah.
but I mean, I like it out here. There's a lot of job opportunity too, with not just instructing, just other aviation jobs for when the future comes, for when it is needed.
Okay.
A lot of opportunity out here.
You went to a different school.
Yeah.
What you don't have to say which school, it's up to you, but what was that like? What I mean, can you talk about your training?
So I went to ATP in
Mhm.
Charlotte,
Okay.
and I would say it was relatively friendly. I more so for my training, I kind of wanted to get it done as fast as I could and didn't want any distractions because I kind of it's a lot of money I'm spending, to get flight training because flight training is not cheap, obviously. But
Right.
so I kind of kept my head down and just grinded it out. But I did make a few friends through CFI because you have to make friends. You have to be able to teach in front of people and practice. But
Mm.
I felt like it was relatively easy because everyone else, there's people from all around the country going to these locations, just like
Mhm.
Thrust.
Right.
So I mean, if you put yourself out there, they'll talk to you.
Yeah.
But and just in my experience, I was better self studying. I felt like I could focus better. So
Nice.
I think there's no reason why you couldn't make any friends. It's a good environment, but
That's what I imagine. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of people. It's really just going to be up to you to make friends. So
exactly, yeah,
that's how I see it.
yeah.
Um, well, let me ask you: did you start? So before you got into your flight training, did you know anything about aviation?
So kind of in a more of a geeky way, I was just obsessed with airline travel, just planes in general. So I
Yeah.
knew a lot about airline planes
Yeah.
in specific, just kind of the a little bit of the mechanics and kind of the types of
Do
planes
you
and
have a
stuff like
favorite
that.
one?
Uh, I mean, probably the newer one, like the A350 is really
Okay.
cool. It's brand new. It has a ton of technology. I like the long haul flights, the international ones that go over
Yeah.
water. Just because I've never been outside the country, so
Yeah.
that's kind of the ambition. I want to fly internationally. So
That's freaking awesome. Yeah.
yeah,
It's been a couple times now, but I don't know enough about the jets yet
yeah.
and about the airline planes. But what makes that one kind of unique to you? That
Uh,
A350.
just some of the aerodynamics with they have some winglets that help with turbulence. The wing flex they really tried imitating like a bird's wing, and that's
Yeah.
why a lot of the newer jets you see have the curvature at the end, and it makes it a
Mm,
little more aerodynamic and comfortable for people to fly in.
okay.
The wings are also a lot longer too, that also helps with that sort of comfort level for passengers.
Mhm.
It's also cool, just like the Archers at Thrust, we have these nice little G1000 glass cockpits. The
Yeah.
A350 has the biggest glass in the plane comparatively to the some of the older airline jets.
Yeah, that's I see that's the kind of stuff I wouldn't know. But I find like mechanics and planes actually really interesting too. And I'm starting now that I'm here, I'm like kind of understand a little more.
Yeah.
So I might do a deep dive soon. Would you say that your interest in aviation started though with planes?
Yeah, I would say just I just love the whole atmosphere going, to an airport because a lot of my family lives in California, so I took airline a lot to travel,
Mm,
and just the whole experience of going to the airport early, waiting in the terminals. I know some people don't like it, but I loved it. I love watching the planes, go
yeah,
around in all these big airports and
yeah,
just seeing these pilots and all these really cool uniforms walking around, and it's
yeah.
just like a I don't know, just a vibe that I like. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. Well, then at some point that turns into like an actual like maybe I should look into this. Like when did that happen and what did that look like?
So it was kind of a weird story. I back in the a long time ago when this was like really young, where I found this kind of obsession
Hmm.
for airline and aviation stuff like that. But
Yeah.
it was I didn't know that loans were a thing, so you could kind of pay it off over time. I My parents kind of made it that you had to pay in full, for every flight lesson. I wouldn't be able to afford that. I was in elementary school, middle school. I was still thinking about it, but then I ended up uh, getting my biology degree for pre med
Yeah.
in college. I went to the University of South Carolina, and I ended up getting my bachelor degree and thought I was going to go to pre med. And then I kind of had this realization. I kind of researched a little bit before I made the decision to, hey, I want to go to med school.
Hmm.
I was like, I can do this. I can take out a loan. I can pay it off. I can do this, and I can fulfill something I think I'm more passionate about.
Yeah.
And I just sent it, and 7.5 months later, I got all my ratings and
Yeah. Did you move through from zero time to like in
zero.
about 7.5 months?
Yeah, I got my zero time, so private all the way to my MEI in 7.5 months. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty fast. I mean, right?
Yeah, I like I said, I cut my nose down and I just really, really uh grinded it out, and
Yeah.
it's a small sacrifice to put for a lifetime of, career, right?
Mm. It sounds like you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you took from your viewpoint on the loan initially, you it kind of made you take it serious, and
Mhm.
and and not that maybe you wouldn't have before, but especially because of the loan, and therefore you put your head down and you got through it. Uh, would you say that let's say that the barrier of entry wasn't through that like maybe big loan or something? Would you have taken it like the same way?
Are you saying like paying like over to, like in full kind of like
Yeah, let's say that if it cost less or you were able to pay in full, do you think that you would have had the same motivation to push through as fast as you did?
um
And maybe you did, maybe you would have.
I would say more the perspective. It wasn't necessarily the loan. It was more that I wouldn't be able to afford it
Mhm,
if I had to pay it in full or if I had to pay it per flight.
mhm.
I wouldn't be able to afford it.
Yeah.
And the loan makes it so I can get the training done and then hopefully pay it over time
Mm.
whenever I get a bigger job where it's paying a little more, that I can just pay it over later, not right now because I couldn't afford it
Yeah,
as a
exactly.
college student, right? You know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, then I guess, if I look at it differently, it just sounds like you wanted to do it no matter what, and you saw this as an opportunity.
Yeah.
The loan's like, "Hey, that just means I can now."
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
all it was. Okay, gotcha. So it wasn't even a consideration that the loan was too big for you?
No, no, it wasn't that. It was just, was it feasible kind of thing,
Yeah.
and the loan makes it feasible. So,
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, there you go. It sounds like you have a plan.
yeah.
Because some people they stop at the loan. They're like they know they want to fly, and everyone has their own goals or whatever. So, but if you know you want to get to the airlines, and then you see the loan, and then you're like, ah, it's too big. I don't want to fly anymore, or maybe it's just too big, and I just will choose something else. I guess that's a good indicator that that wasn't gonna stop you. Is my point.
No, no,
It
that
wasn't
was
gonna stop a lot of people who are here. So,
as long as you have the tenacity for it and you love aviation,
yeah.
I mean, it should be no issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sweet. Okay. Well, right now you've been here for about 8 months. I'm curious, like, how far along in your process are you? Do you anticipate moving on to a next steps in your career anytime soon?
Uh, not really. I mean, I like what I do. I mean, it's definitely progressed pretty well through the 8 months, but I mean, weather and everything, it comes by slow, comes by fast. I'm hoping for the summer it gets a little faster, but
Hmm.
I'm definitely not in any rush. I still feel like after 8 months of starting, I'm still learning every day.
Hmm.
Students are different. There's just different scenarios that you just never see. And it's good learning experience, and everyone that tells me being a CFI is probably the most learning experience you'll have in your life. So I'm
Hmm.
definitely in no rush. And I'm not anywhere close. So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't
I
really
hear you.
matter either way.
Yeah, you're just right now. You're in a good spot to be working it out.
Yeah.
I feel like if I were to ever, if I were going down the aviation like training journey, I'd look forward to becoming a CFI because that's where I feel like you really get to become an expert.
Yeah, I
So
definitely feel that I learned a lot obviously through training, but I think I've learned more just being a CFI. Like
yeah.
once you start working, you don't really realize what you have to know and what you have to adapt to until you
Hmm.
start actually having a student you're responsible for them.
Hmm.
It's kind of it was a little eye opening starting.
Yeah, it's like a practice makes perfect, or
Yeah,
that it sounds like you just training is training, but then you get to really put it to work afterwards.
yeah.
Um, did you know you're gonna be? Did you know that becoming a CFI was a part of the journey for you, like
S-
starting flight training?
Not exactly. So I thought, when I first started, like you get your ratings and
Yeah,
you kind of just seek out jobs from there. But then,
yeah,
I mean, not everyone goes to CFI route. You can get lucky and get some other, low time jobs, but
yeah,
CFI is by far the most common way to gain your hours to get to an airline or a corporate job, something like that.
yeah,
But once I got through training, I was, through my getting, in the middle of my training, I realized, yeah, CFI is going to be the way. And
yeah.
I definitely recommend it. It's,
I mean, yeah. I mean, it seems like I just feel like you can get the most out of being a CFI.
yeah,
Like you said, you had like almost like this nerd viewpoint of like I'm just so into it,
yeah,
even like almost like a fan thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think a lot of people start that way. Maybe they know they're just micro learning, they're consuming content until maybe something pushes them. Maybe they're hoping something pushes them. What do you think it is that's gonna change that for some people, like from being a fan to being someone who wants to actually do it?
I think the best thing is doing a discovery flight. So
Yeah.
there's so much you can know just by reading books and videos and stuff like that. But once you experience yourself taking off and landing and just kind of feeling what it feels like to be in the air, and because you have a dream of, wanting to, be in a plane, fly a plane, but
Yeah.
you don't really know it's surreal, being inside of a plane, actually maneuvering and actually in the controls is something different.
Yeah.
It's something you can't really describe with words. You just have to feel it.
That's kinda how I felt, like, just being in granted, it was still nuanced for me to be in a smaller plane.
Mm,
It was, like, very new. I'd never been anything less than an airline jet. So I was like, "Well, this is kinda crazy," but, like, it ended there for me. I have to say, like, that level of new experience that I had from just being in the plane versus the level of new experience of just actually taking controls even for just a few minutes and helping land the plane, I mean, it's like tenfold. I
yeah,
mean, that stuck with me very heavily, like, when I got to feel the omnidirectional, like, control you have,
yeah,
um, I mean, I don't know, it's very different than, like, it's a sense that you're flying.
yeah,
So
yeah,
anyways, I just wanted to point that out there that, uh, yes, I agree with you. I can
yeah.
imagine the discovery flight would be super helpful. Uh, I wanted to go into some of these questions that I have.
Okay.
Um, at this point, you know, you've got into it, and I wonder if maybe it changed, maybe it hasn't, but what's your why in aviation? Like, what's something that kinda pushes you? Is there something that's like, "I know I wanna do this for this reason?"
Yeah, I think I think I still have the same reasoning that I first started with,
Mhm.
but I also kind of gained this new feeling of having students and sending them off to fulfill their dreams that I had when I started flight school to get these ratings and stuff like that. But it's a real joy to know you trained a student all the way through a phase
Yeah.
and they get a rating that gets them one step closer to their goal of whatever they want to do in aviation, and it kind of it just puts a good feeling inside of me to know that I'm helping another
Mhm.
person who's stepping into the aviation community get one step closer to their goal, and then also being able to um, just kind of spread, you know, knowledge to other people. To kind of what raise the next
Yeah.
generation of aviation or whatever.
I wonder what why, 'cause I think we've gotten the answer a couple times, maybe
Yeah,
something similar anyways.
yeah.
What is it about that is so I'm wondering what it is about that so, like, people are finding so valuable?
I mean,
It's kinda like sharing it's kinda like if you have a favorite song or an artist you're a fan of or like a show and getting to nerd out with someone about that.
yeah.
It's kinda like I feel like it's something like that, like getting to put someone on your favorite artist.
I definitely think it's that. I mean, CFI really kind of raised my eye to that because you have
Yeah.
to know everything to a complex level and be able to teach it,
Mhm.
and it's kind of getting them to, I don't know, like getting 'em to the feeling of where they can do it too, and it kind of just cycles over and over
Yeah.
again, and then
Just sharing what you like is at a level of enjoyment that you didn't expect.
yeah, sharing. And
So
also the other point I was gonna make was I also know what it was like to go to these. I went through check rides. We have EOCs and stuff here and check rides, but
mhm.
just the nerves of it, and then knowing that I can give them a piece of information that would help them
Mhm.
for that, because we all know going through check rides and EOCs is nerve wracking, and
Yeah.
sometimes you just you forget something. You're just in the moment,
Mhm.
and maybe giving them a piece of information that sticks with them and it helps them for their check ride or the EOC.
That's impactful. I think I just think that's impactful. I think like humans in general just like being able to do that with other humans.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it
yeah,
sounds like that's pretty common now, and it's cool to know that after talking to so many people.
yeah.
EOCs, for people who may not understand, do you think you could break that down?
Yeah, so with
Yeah.
check rides, it's with a designated pilot examiner, a DPE, and it's
Mhm.
through the FAA. With EOC, which we're very fortunate to have, the FAA comes and approves certain people and certain courses that would be eligible for an EOC. So we can have someone that's in house. So we have designated EOC instructors who can actually do these EOCs for our private instrument CFI course, and it's just something that makes you you're a little have a familiar face, right?
Right.
And you can test with them there, and they're able to give you that one of those three ratings,
Hmm.
and it just makes it a little, I guess, the comfort level of it because
Hmm.
I went through 7 check rides, so I was meeting these random people who are super experienced in aviation. They're typically a
Intimidating.
little older, except for Patrick. He was young when he started, but it definitely, I think it calms nerves a little bit. I think I would have rather had an EOC because I would seen some of these people, and know how they are, and be a little like again a little more comfortable.
One thing I wanted to ask about that is, in your experience here, have you seen it be impactful in terms of accessibility? Like people are able to get their EOCs faster than sometimes a check ride.
For sure, because these instructors, some of these EOC instructors, they just strictly do EOCs, and they have availability to do them. Now we don't have that many, but I think we're scaling up a little bit.
Hmm.
But that could be a little bit of a hindrance if they're just blocked off because these CFI EOCs, they take a while because we have to talk a lot about a lot more things in depth.
Hmm.
I definitely think if availability makes it a lot quicker rather than sometime I know a lot of places have issues scheduling check rides. Takes a long wait.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like in North Carolina, but in the DFW, I mean, it's like an aviation hub. We're busy. DPEs are not always the easiest to get in quickly, especially let's say someone gets like the weather's not what it needs to be for an instrument rating or something like that, and you have to reschedule your check ride. I can imagine that would be frustrating as a student.
Yeah, it was a lot more eye opening here than it was when I trained in Charlotte. The
Yeah.
reason I got through so a lot of the reason why people take so long through programs around here is because DP availability.
Hmm.
I just was fortunate that the only reason I could finish so fast was because I didn't have to wait too long.
Hmm.
But then again, DFW is a way bigger hub. I'm not gonna
Hmm.
say Charlotte's small by any means, but
No. Yeah.
DFW just is a lot more of a need.
Hmm.
But I definitely think that's a hindrance.
Yeah, sounds like a good place to be a DPE.
Yeah, right.
I was like, if I had the ability to be a DPE, I'd come to the DFW,
Yeah.
but potentially. Well, what is something that you think helped you the most in your flight training and get through, other than focusing? Like, is there any pieces of advice? Well, you can say that too, but is there any piece of advice you would share with anyone?
I think personally, my experience, what got me through so well was the instructor, and that comes down to having a good instructor who's thoughtful and they actually care about your training and
Hmm.
you as a person. Like I know, being an instructor, we have multiple students. You have to worry about a lot of things all at once,
Hmm.
but that comes with the job. But you still have to give meaningful instruction to every single one of them
Hmm.
because they uh, they're impacted by how you are with them and how much care you put with it. And I was fortunate to have the same instructor for most of my ratings, and
Hmm.
we ended up kind of just bonding. Came really close, and I felt really, really comfortable, and I knew he knew what he was doing, and it allowed me to take in information and trust him, and
Hmm.
it made my training a lot easier and
Hmm.
efficient. But then going on with that, it comes down to the self, like your own person. You have
Hmm.
to have, like I said, the grit and the tenacity to get through it. It's not easy going through flight training, and especially at thrust, it's accelerated. So you really have to, be focused. And
Yeah.
like I was saying before, it's just a small sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
It's a year, maybe less, and it's a small part of your life to, and these ratings matter for later in life, and you're going to use them all through your life. So might as well take it seriously now because you're going to have to take it serious the rest of your life. So
Right. And I think that's a good point because this is someone's people are looking into starting a career. They're looking into starting something that's supposed to impact the rest of life. Arguably one of the biggest decisions you're gonna make, which is how you like thrive and make money in life, and
yeah,
provide for your future self and or family. Um, the small sacrifice part, comparatively, because you said you started college. I'm not sure exactly how far you got into your college career or journey. Um, that sacrifice. How would you compare the sacrifices there, that way it feels, the commitment? Because there's people out here who are like, especially with maybe parent pressure, societal pressure, or just self pressure, what's familiar to them. I should go to college, but I want to do this. So I'm curious about that. That's all.
I think it comes down to what my passion was for. So I was going through college and I had like an interest in science and stuff like that in high school, and that's kind of like why I chose that route.
Mm,
But I wouldn't necessarily say I was 100% committed or passionate about it. I was kind of keeping my eyes open for certain things.
mm,
And then comparatively, when I went to flight school, I'm paying for it myself and everything, and
mm,
it's what I want to do in life. And I knew that I have to be, on point, and I have to focus in order to be presentable to all these airlines or corporate whoever I'm applying to later in
mm,
life. And that kind of just opened my eyes up a little bit. And I think that my study habit, my what everything that I focus on in aviation was tenfold higher
mm.
comparatively to college, because I didn't really have a path yet. And
Yeah.
then once I went to flight school, I had a path, and I wanted to do it, and I knew I wanted to be successful in it. And
Hmm.
that's what really kind of turned me on.
Hmm. Especially with some of these schools where they have a path that like makes sense to you.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, and then do this, and then get to the airlines, right? Like it kind of feels like you just kind of follow the steps,
Hmm.
and you do, and you enjoy yourself while you can, and you work hard. Do you think that going to your beginning college kind of gave you a frame of reference on what you would do differently starting flight training?
Definitely, because my study habits in college were not. I didn't really have one, to be honest.
Yeah.
But getting to flight school really opened me up to knowing how to study, knowing how to transition. Just the short amount, like, because relatively the instruction you have with your instructor isn't much comparatively to how much you have to self study.
Hmm.
So it really taught me like what is the most efficient way, how to internalize knowledge and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I didn't really have that in college,
Yeah.
and going through flight school really taught me, and I feel like I matured
Yeah.
with that sort of realm of studying and academic or whatever.
For the people who may just straight up choose to go into flight training and may skip some of those prerequisite learning opportunities in college, what are some things that you would say that you got out of college would be good skills to have going into flight training?
I mean, it just comes down to study habit. I mean, some people could find some good ones in high school, but let's
Yeah.
just say, for example, you didn't.
Yeah.
Um, it really comes down to trust your instructor. They'll tell you,
Yeah.
what do you need to know
Yeah.
for to be ready for this said rating.
Yeah.
So if he tells you, to read something, go over something, do it. We have something called chair flying. We go through maneuvers, and we have a procedure that we go through.
Hmm.
And getting that framework down even before you get in the plane helps you that much more,
Yeah.
because again, you're paying money to get all this training, and it's still, even though with a loan, you're still paying per flight technically.
Exactly.
So having some of this framework down would help you gain the plane, because in the plane you want to maximize the efficiency and how much you can do. And if you
Hmm.
don't know these things prehand,
Yeah.
it's gonna make it a lot harder, because I'm just have to explain the plane, what to do, rather than just kind of going straight into it and just trying it, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, your instructor. It sounds like utilizing your instructor not for things that you could get on your own, like through a textbook or through studying, is not a good use of resources.
yeah, I mean, not solely. I mean,
Yeah, not
obviously,
solely. Yeah,
solely, I would
yeah.
say, but
Anyways,
another thing too to
yeah.
prepare is a big hindrance is writtens. We have writtens for every rating we have to do,
Hmm.
and getting them done before will help you out so much more. I got all of mine done before I started, so
Yeah, that's
um,
good. Yeah,
and
how did you know to get them done before you started?
so I was talking to some people that were already in flight training,
Yeah,
and they just recommend. And I also watched some videos, just people like what recommendations before you start flight school, and that was
yeah,
like the number one thing they said: get those done, because they are a pain
yeah,
to. It's something you have to kind of get over and pass, but it's a pain when you're in the middle of training and studying.
yeah,
That I'm kind of just having to switch gears and go switch to something else.
yeah, yeah. And then, is there any tips or tricks you have for people getting ready to take the writtens?
Study on Shepherd Air. I
Yeah,
mean,
Shepherd Air.
they're very reliable. I mean, they have pretty much the exact same questions that are going to be on the exam, and just kind of, you know, s- setting some time to kind of just grind it out
Hmm.
and just get it done.
How do people know? Do you get like results back after your writtens that like kind of have a list of things you don't know, like you missed?
Yeah. So right when you take your written, they print out a sheet saying whether you passed or you failed. You have to
Hmm.
get above a 70.
Hmm.
But it prints out all the codes,
Yeah,
and you can go right to the decoder for it, the PTAC codes
yeah,
decoder, and focusing on your strengths or weaknesses. You
Yeah.
definitely weaknesses are the big thing because these examiners and DPs they'll search it out real quick.
Yeah.
They'll know where you're weak in.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. They'll find it.
yeah,
Yeah.
they'll find it.
So looking for your own weaknesses is really more of an opportunity than it is something to be nervous about.
Yeah, no, for
Yeah.
sure.
And some people think you just got to pass your writtens, which it can hold you back from flight training. Just it is helpful to get to the actual flight training, but at the end of the day, there's room there to kind of help you in
I'll
your
definitely take them
tech writing.
seriously. Don't just be like it's
Yeah.
something to get over.
Yeah, gotcha. Is there anything that you would like to make a comparison about between ATP and thrust flight that you would say, just that people may know if they want to make decisions?
I would say going along with like the ground courses and the study halls and stuff like that. I think I really like how Thrust does that, and it promotes student community, and that was like what we're talking about with the social of both. I think that study halls definitely bring about community, and that's why I see
Yeah.
there's a lot more student community I see here,
Hmm.
rather than individuals,
Hmm.
which I think is definitely good because I didn't really do that until my CFI when I had to start teaching and stuff like that. But I
Right.
wish I had that earlier because
Yeah.
they can also seek out weaknesses because some people know more than others, right?
Right.
And when they're kind of just going through stuff with you and you're going over material, you can really find your weaknesses by them asking. And it's also good getting questions from a different face
Hmm.
because everyone asks things differently. That's a
Yeah.
good way to find other weaknesses too.
Right. And that's not to say you can't get through by putting your head down like you
Oh, of
did.
course,
I
I
mean,
mean, I did it. I
obviously you
did it.
did
Yeah.
that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I want to make sure. But there's a lot of people who I've heard like they're like, oh, I don't know exactly what to do. Do you have any tips on people maybe choosing flight schools? Did you look into other flight schools?
I did. I was mostly looking around the Charlotte area.
Yeah.
I think I kind of just chose like the biggest one, most popular one. Just
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't really do too much research,
Yeah.
but I think that actually going to a location, kind of seeing the community. I always make an effort when people are touring around Thrust to kind of talk to them, kind of tell them a little bit
Mhm. Mhm.
about how it works. I think knowing that and kind of walking around and seeing how the flight school community is.
Yeah, like what it feels like when you walk in is
Exactly.
a
Kind of
big
get
thing.
get a feel of
Yeah.
what's happening there. I think that's a big thing
Yeah.
because every flight school does the same thing to get your rating, but
Yeah.
there's different ways in how you get it, right?
Exactly. And look for a good fit for yourself. That's what we always try to say is like, look, first of all, yes, Thrust Flight, we believe we're like top tier
Yeah,
flight school. But the idea is that everyone needs different things. You should do your research. You should look into them, make some calls, go make some visits, do a discovery flight.
yeah,
I kind of figure out what's best for you and see what works.
mm,
Um, I think that's important. That's all.
yeah.
Well, we'll be wrapping up here pretty soon. To be honest with you, I want to throw a few things at you. I didn't ask one question that I had in my mind earlier.
Okay,
I wish I could remember what that was, but I'm gonna move on to ask you this.
okay.
uh, how do you study the ACS?
So the ACS is broken up into codes, right? There's a task, and then
Mhm.
there's a sub part of that.
Mhm.
There's obviously required topics of what the DP or examiner has to go over.
Mhm.
So I first focus on those,
Yeah.
and then after that, I want to get all of the remaining knowledge. So
Yeah.
um, kind of through CFI and stuff like that, I use like an 80-20 rule, 80%, 20%, and the
Mhm.
80% is required. The 20% would be the extra, the curveballs that someone might throw you, and then having that kind of extra complex knowledge that you don't necessarily need
Mhm.
for that rating, but they might throw it out there, and it kind of gives you more complex knowledge of maybe the answer something that you didn't know, or kind of works your way to the right answer.
Yeah.
Um, but definitely just starting off, at least just read through it
Yeah.
because know everything that could be uh, given to you, right?
Right. And do you just read it from front to back?
Front to yeah, typically.
Yeah. That's wild because I feel like that's not my strong suit.
Yeah, it's also structured in the way because every examination or check ride is ground portion first, then flight, and that's how the
Okay.
ACS is also structured. So
That's a little rhythm
that's
to
kind
it.
of the reason I go front to back.
Okay.
But then also kind of obviously don't just read the ACS and think you're ready, right? I mean,
Right.
I kind of like I was saying, targeting certain areas, I target that area and then I use other resources to kind of develop my knowledge for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind
Makes
of
sense.
basically
Kinda
good.
like Shepherd Air and things like that, and notes and of course, do you watch YouTube?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what kind of content are there any channels or shout outs that you follow, or you just kinda Google stuff?
Not in particular. I
Yeah.
kind of just when I didn't know something, I would just look it up, and the first one I saw,
Mhm.
I'd kind of use it. And definitely YouTube. There's a lot of really good YouTube content. If you don't understand a certain topic, I can almost assure you that they have that topic on YouTube.
Mhm.
Um, actually, I've used some of y'all's too.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
mean, um, definitely utilize all your resources, not just the ones that they say that you have, right?
Exactly, yeah, I mean, it's a new era. There's, knowledge everywhere.
Yeah,
So, do you listen to any podcasts or anything like that?
I listen to Pilot to Pilot.
Oh, Pilot to Pilot. I've heard
Yeah,
about that one too. I haven't checked it out actually yet.
it's kind of good for knowing like how the aviation industry, more so for the like
I like
airline
that.
corporate area, is kind of cool to have some knowledge on how that's working.
I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah? Is there any other ones like that I'm doing this for myself here, and
yeah,
hopefully the viewers can, gain from it as well, but
yeah.
do you have any other ones that are maybe a little more technical? Like plane stuff?
I can't remember his name right now, but there
Mm.
is one. He goes over prep just for uh check rides.
Oh, that's
Like
awesome.
he
Is it
gives
pi it's not Behind the Prop, is it? With Wally? Because we talked to
no
him one
no
time. Okay.
it was some I thought it was something DPE, but it's a guy that just gives tips and tricks for the prepare you for your check ride.
Okay.
That one was good.
And you
Uh,
maybe if you find it later, you can put it in the comments of this video.
yeah,
So
yeah, right, yeah.
yeah. But I'll look up Pilot to Pilot because I've heard that one a couple times already, and, I'm looking to kinda understand some things a little bit better. Okay, well, lastly, what are 3 things you wish you knew before your first check ride? That's what I
I
wanna.
mean, number one thing before my private check ride, I was super nervous.
Yeah,
I was shaking. I didn't know what to expect. I would just say that know that they're just another person. They're another person, a little more experienced in aviation, and they want to pass you, right?
yeah,
They're looking to pass you and just seeing if there's things that maybe are a little deficient, right?
yeah,
So just going in there, like I know I tell everyone, just take a breath, be calm. Like they don't want to fail you. They want to pass you, and and most in my experience, all of them have been good, a good
yeah,
environment. So just knowing, come in with a calm head, just if your instructor wouldn't have signed you off, they didn't think they were ready, right?
yeah,
You have the knowledge. You just have to calm down and just listen to what he says and answer, right? That's
yeah.
all you have to do. Um, Secondly is cramming.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing to do.
Oh, okay.
I had kind of a ritual after, like, let's say my check ride was tomorrow.
Yeah.
After 6 p.m., I don't look at a single thing.
Okay,
Don't look at
gotcha.
it. It calms my that's and that kind of goes on to calming my head. I just
Mhm.
kind of at 6 p.m. I do my own thing. I kind of just do something that relaxes me, and
Mm.
I show up, and it's been fine.
The difference here, and if you don't mind, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm speaking, outside, but from how I understand this, the difference here between cramming for a check ride or EOC is much different than cramming for some test you're taking in school. Because when you come in the next day, right, it's interactive, and you're going to be maneuvering something physically. Like there's a skill, there's a technique here, there's words that have to be shared. I mean, I don't know. Is there anything you could say to that?
I definitely think it's different too. Like
Yeah.
comparatively from I did in college too. So
Yeah, I
I
was good
mean,
at cramming in high school. Like I'll tell you, I'll
yeah, yeah,
cram and I'll ace a test. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
But like with tests and stuff like that, you have a lot of clues, multiple choice stuff like that. When you show up, it's just you and that examiner, right? It's
yeah.
either you know it, or you don't, right? So that's why if you, let's say you didn't really study all through your rating and you crammed all the morning before, they're gonna catch it. I promise you. Like you can't retain that amount of information if you just cram it all last minute.
Mhm.
Um,
There's no faking the funk.
exactly.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean that's the what overall what happens if you
yeah.
try. I
And
mean,
at the end of the day, you got to get in the plane.
and that goes into the plane. Like you can't cram going into a plane, right?
Yeah,
So I mean, you just gotta trust the practice that your instructor gave you. I mean, there's no cram, like I said, no cramming before. You can't just go in a plane right before. Some people do it, but
yeah,
if you don't have the opportunity, like there's nothing you can do about it.
yeah. And so to your point, you know, it's funny you set a rule to not even look at anything related to it after 6 p.m. Is it because what does setting that rule do for you though? Is it makes it to where you have to be prepared or you get to calm down?
It's more so that I know like you're less than 24 hours away from your check ride, right?
Uh-huh.
And you kind of know short term memory with
Yeah.
cramming, it doesn't really retain that well anyway.
Mhm.
Um, but most of for the part of that is like I kind of accept to myself that I have all the information that I'm gonna remember and that my instructor thinks I'm prepared.
Yeah.
But it mostly leads into just calming my head
Yeah.
because after my private, I started doing that, and I just felt a lot more relaxed coming into it.
Mhm.
That was the biggest part because nerves are a part of what can kind of hurt you in a check ride because when you're just real nervous, you kind of lock up. You don't know what to say. You don't know what to do.
Mhm.
But kind of having that pre-hand, just do whatever you like doing as a hobby past six. I don't,
Yeah.
it kind of makes me forget about all the stress and all the preparation I had for that check ride,
Mhm.
and I just come in,
come in with a sense of rest and a clear mind. I feel like
Exactly.
goes a long way. I think people undervalue that. I always did. I just
Yeah.
thought I could just go, 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 crash, and then go, 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 go,
Yeah,
crash.
right. Yeah.
Like, but I've learned. I think Banksy. I have this Banksy poster, and he says, "Learn to oh, when you're tired, learn to rest, not quit."
Mhm.
And I looked at rest differently after I got that poster. That's
Yeah,
really
right.
it. I just like that. I really like that rest is important. It's helpful.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because it's kind of makes it seem like there's an alternative between the two.
Mhm.
Like sometimes you think that you have to quit, but maybe if you just rest, then you're good.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
getting sleep, that's really
yeah,
important too, so, I mean
yeah, yeah. Resting your brain in one way or another. Well, look, I think you shared a lot of good things. I feel like there's like still a lot to. I feel like we kind of just got started.
yeah.
But we don't really do 2 to 3 hour episodes, so
Yeah.
so I'll keep it kind of chill there. If you're still watching, if you're still listening, like, comment, subscribe. That still helps. Only about 4%. I think it went up to about 5% recently of our reoccurring viewers are actually subscribed. If you're on listening platforms, those stars and those ratings go a long way. And I'm assuming you did like this episode if you're still listening. So,
Yeah.
we had Noah on, and we'll have more guests coming on in the following weeks. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Pilots Say What. We're here where we hear what pilots have to say.